Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day is regarding swim champ Riley Gaines being attacked by a radical trans mob and being forced to barricade after one of her speeches. Folks, this is wild and insane. Before we jump into everything, make sure you support a true American patriot by hitting like and subscribe and leaving us a short, sweet comment down below. Your help and support would be greatly appreciated. Well, swimming champ Riley Gaines spent a harrowing night barricaded in a safe room on Thursday after radical transgender activists swarmed her when she visited San Francisco State University to advocate for the rights of female athletes. Gaines, a former University of Kentucky star who was deprived of an NCAA award by Leah Thomas, the University of Pennsylvania swimmer who claims to be female even though he's a biological male and competes against women, was at the school as part of the Turning Point USA event. Video on social media, which we will show you in a moment, shows Gaines being hustled to safety by police officers as a mob of radical transgender activists follow her shouting trans rights are human rights. Quote, "The prisoners are running the asylum at SFSU," Gaines tweeted. "This is proof that women need sex-protected spaces. Still only further assures me I'm doing the right thing. When they want you silent, speak louder." Folks, this video clip is wild. Let's go ahead and roll it. So she's leaving the room in which she was giving a speech. Lights are going on and off. People are shouting, and she's being escorted now by police out of the classroom.
Yeah, you fucking transphobic bitch! I fucking see you! Trans rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights!
Folks, this is supposedly the tolerant left, right? That's all for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't see any of that here. I see a mob, a woke mob, that says trans rights are human rights, which I don't know how they get to that logic and that linear conclusion, but that's for another video. Sitting there, pushing back against police officers, going after a speaker at a university, by the way, which is supposed to be all about free speech and dialogue, and you can't even have that anymore. Why? Because you had the education system become a factory of indoctrination of the woke and progressive left, and this is what now our universities have turned into.
Trans rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights! You crying! You fucking...
Insane. Absolutely insane, but they're going to do everything they can to silence you, folks. And that's why you just have to speak up. Even if you aren't racist or anything like that, and they're still going to call you racist, you might as well just say what you're going to say, because this is how they're going to treat you. Even what you're saying is true, objectively true, they will still attack you and go after you and your family. And we're seeing that happening to Matt Walsh right now of the Daily Wire. Well, Gaines had begun her speech on protecting female athletes from unfair competition when protesters burst into the room where she was speaking. As she was being escorted to safety, she was physically assaulted, she said. Quote, "I'm okay currently, but an hour and a half later, I'm still barricaded in a room with ambushers on the outside yelling and threatening violence," Gaines said. "As police escorted me out of the event space to my current location, I was hit physically twice by what I presume was a male individual. This only assures me I am doing the right thing." What's astonishing here is what she's saying is true about protecting female athletes from unfair competition. As somebody that played ice hockey for over 25 years, you do not want men and women to compete against each other in a physical sport like that. You can look at mixed martial arts like the UFC. It's not fun watching a guy destroy a woman, which has happened. I'll show you that clip. I mean, we see this time and time and time again. Just natural biology playing its course out of women getting destroyed by men. I'm not trying to degrade women, but there's just biological factors of evolution playing into effect here of why some women, heck, all women should not compete in men's sports. Like there's some sports where you can compete against each other, right? Like pool or something, or bowling, okay? But not contact sports. It doesn't work that way. But for some reason, they continue to want this to happen, which we all know the end result of how that's going to be. It was unclear how long Gaines was barricaded in the room, but the event began at 7 p.m. local time, and at midnight, police were still dispersing the protesters. They couldn't even get this thing under control. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk blasted the protesters behind the ugly incident. Quote, "This is unacceptable at an American college campus. Even in San Francisco." Well, I mean, Charlie, should we expect anything else from San Francisco? It's San Francisco. In probably the biggest dominated leftist state in the union. There's a reason why people are fleeing the masses from the state of California, going to Texas and Florida and other places, okay? And it's not really just California, to be quite frank. It's basically every major city that's ran by the left and Democrat Party that people are getting the heck out because of things like this. Pray for Riley Gaines and for our brave students at SFSU. Gaines' agents, Ellie Bremer, said Gaines will not back down from the mob. Quote, "Instead of a thoughtful discussion tonight at SFSU, Riley was violently accosted, shouted at, physically assaulted, and barricaded in a room by protesters. It is stunning that in America in 2023, it is acceptable for biological male students to violently assault a woman for standing up for women's rights. There's some irony. This will not stop Riley from boldly educating people of the dangers of biological males in women's sports. She will continue to speak the truth against the radical left that no longer understands the difference between men and women." Absolutely correct. There is no difference to them. And if there is a difference to them, they can't even explain what that difference is, and thus they couldn't even explain what a woman is, which we've seen from time and time again of Matt Walsh just questioning the progressive left constantly about what is a woman? What is a woman? And it's about their feelings. If you notice, every time they're asked this question, it's, well, I heard it from somebody else, or somebody told me this, somebody affirmed my beliefs, somebody made me feel this way. It's not about feelings. Again, Ben Shapiro has that quote, "Facts don't care about your feelings," a famous quote, but it's true. Objective facts, truth matters. And the second you diminish the truth, the second you start going after falsehoods, is the second that your society cripples. It is the reason why societies will fall from the inside out and be collapsed. And that's exactly why we wrote the book, as I'm plugging so often, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. And you're seeing one of the examples here. We cover the education system. We cover CRT. We cover how the indoctrination of the left is basically pumping out a factory of kids and students in the school system, and you're seeing the ramifications, you're seeing the end product of that indoctrination with this woke mob here and what they're doing to speakers, not enabling them to have that right of free speech because they don't want you to have any rights. They want to force you to believe in their ideology. There is nothing more radical than certain extremists of a specific faith. And what I mean by that, again, somebody is a Christian, is that the radical left mob is more religious than you and I are. Whether you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Sikh, you're Buddhist, you're Christian, whatever it may be, they are more religious than you are. The reason why is because they don't even question what they're doing. They don't question their thinking. They don't question their motives. They don't question their actions. They just do it because they're in full belief. Whereas a Christian, a Jew, we tend to sit there and struggle with God. We sit there and struggle with our faith every now and then because there's constant doubt seeping in and out from many factors, not just from the individual, but also your social milieu. And what's happening here is they don't question those things. And when you sit there and stump them through a debate or dialogue that sits there and makes them question about it, they sit there and they just shut you down. And they don't want to hear about it because what will happen is if they have to accept that truth, that is objective, by the way, between male and female, then their whole worldview is shattered. And not just their worldview, but their feelings, what they set up for themselves in terms of their life, the people they put around them, everything would be flipped upside down. It would be no different than you realizing, even though this would be false, you realizing that Christ never existed and wasn't true. Like it wasn't the true God. Okay, obviously as Christians, we believe certain aspects of our faith, but I'm just utilizing as an analogy of us being told that Christ was not real, never existed, and that ended up being a fact, just say theoretically. That is the same idea of a trans person or somebody of the LGBTQ community being basically disproven of their ideology and being told to accept that truth, even though that truth is in fact the truth because it's objective. No difference than the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, right? No difference. The moon is always going to be there. There's certain objective truths that we can always hold on to because they are always holding true, but they don't want to accept that. Moving into our next story today, speaking of the LGBTQ and woke mob, UK's largest teacher unions votes to invite more drag queens to schools. You might be going, Brad, why and who cares about the UK and what goes on there? Folks, what happens in other countries tends to seep into the United States and vice versa. Okay, some might sit there and say, hey, you know what? The United States brought the woke mentality, the woke ideology to Canada or to the United Kingdom. That very well may be true. But what we tend to see is what happens here spreads, and what happens there spreads to here. The UK's largest teacher unions said this week that schools across the country should welcome in drag queens and promote more LGBT events. You know what that means? More grooming. You know what that means? More illicit sexual behavior happening in front of your son or daughter, if this comes to here. And quite frankly, right, the drag shows are already happening. They're happening in the education system without you even knowing. Sometimes the school does know and doesn't notify the parents. Or the school doesn't know because you have an administrator or teacher behind everybody's backs putting on these clubs and inviting your son or daughter to these clubs by a friend who's already in the club to sit there and try to indoctrinate them and bring them into the cult, right? To bring them into this LGBTQ plus cult. Look, there's LGBTQ elemental P people that are part of the conservative and Republican movement and ideology. Okay, I am totally understanding that. When I'm talking about this movement here, this is radical. This is wanting to denigrate a society. This is wanting to destroy a great society from the inside out. And boy, oh boy, folks, are they doing a job of it. At a meeting of the National Education Union, NEU, this week at Harrogate, the teachers voted in favor of a motion to bring Drag Queen Story Hour and other LGBT events to schools in order to take a heteronormative culture. Quote, initiatives like Drag Queen Story Time and inviting LGBT plus authors into schools can help challenge the heteronormative culture and curriculum that dominates education. God, you're seeing it in real time, folks. It is a time to freaking be alive. Who would have ever thought this would be a thing where you have predominantly the Democrat Party and progressive left wanting to groom your children? They want and incentivize the idea that your son or daughter knows what's right for them cognitively. That when they feel like they are a male, even though they are biological female, you as a parent have to go along with that thinking and indulge that thinking. And if you're not going to indulge that thinking at home, then you better make sure that they're going to get it at the school, because the school's going to do it. Well, that's a school psychologist grooming them. The teachers that are these activist teachers, not just teachers, but activist teachers grooming them. They're sending them to Planned Parenthood on campus. They're sending them to the school psychologists on campus or the counselors on campus. They're sending them off campus without you even knowing. There is so much going on here. And what's crazy to me is people still vote in Joe Biden. And the reason I go, why would you vote for Joe Biden after everything that's going on? The one sole issue as to why you shouldn't vote this man in is because he's for all of this. The White House has been open about this. They've sent out actual public announcements on this stuff that they're for it. Karine Jean-Pierre on the podium last week was just talking about how she's for all this stuff, because you had Philip Wegman, who asked probably the greatest question of the week last week. At what age does Joe Biden think is acceptable for a young person to basically have a surgery or basically be moving along the spectrum of the trans or getting that gender affirming care? Obviously, she dodged it, but meaning dodged the question as far as the age, but she did basically incentivize that the Biden administration is for all of this stuff. So it's happening in real time, folks. According to NEU Joint Secretary General Mary Bousted, one reason for the motion was to counter the influence of online personalities like Andrew Tate. Oh, he's just so bad. Andrew Tate says some good things. Andrew Tate says some very bad things. That's Andrew Tate for you. I think as an adult, you should be able to sit there and pick out what is true and what is false. But again, we're dealing with the left here, you guys. We're dealing with the left. They're not able to do that. They can't even sit there and look at objective truths on what is a male and a female. They can't even see that. They think it's a spectrum. They think there's all this stuff in between as well. There's endless genders. The NEU is committed to sharing and disseminating teaching resources and strategies to help members support success and positive school experiences for all LGBT plus students, including trans and non-binary students. Speaking of the spectrum, there you go, non-binary. I've always shared the story of when I was in a training up in Los Angeles for teaching. We had the whole faculty in the room, and they had somebody basically talk about trans and the LGBTQ plus community, because a lot of people were becoming trans, meaning people, the students themselves. And it was so funny because usually when you show up to these faculty meetings, you're very familiar with those that are in your department, like the math department, science department, English department, etc. So you tend to sit with your coworkers that are within your department. And I'll never forget me looking around and watching the science department take the pamphlets themselves and try to turn it upside down to get more of an understanding of what they are looking at, because cognitively it went against everything they learned in school their entire lives. And now they're being told that they need to somehow understand this and then be accepting of it. And furthermore, be careful what they say in the classroom, because they might lose their job, and they're just sitting there trying to process all this stuff. I'll never forget them rotating the whole group of them, 14 of them were rotating the paper. It was hilarious. Not hilarious in the sense of the training we had to go to, but it's hilarious of them trying to understand it, because it's not understandable at all. The motion was voted on after one teacher accused Prime Minister the prime minister, of supporting the far-right attacks on drag queen Storytime and the murder of beautiful souls like Brianna Gay. According to the Telegraph, Gay, a trans-identifying teenager, was stabbed to death in a park earlier this year, which is a terrible thing. Absolutely terrible. The teacher later apologized, according to a spokesman for the union, saying that she did not mean to say the prime minister was complicit in murder. Now, that is a good apology, because just because somebody commits a murder on behalf of somebody else because they're psycho up here doesn't mean that person that said something that elicited some sort of attack from somebody else was responsible for the murder. But you see that a lot from the progressive left, especially the Democrat Party nowadays, where, case de facto, Trump saying, hey, protest peacefully. We got permits at the Capitol. Let's go sit there and utilize our First Amendment rights and protest peacefully. But because some people didn't, somehow it is Trump's fault. And that's basically the mechanism of what's happening here. She apologizes and withdraws the specific allegation that the prime minister supported the murder of a young trans girl. Many trans and non-binary teachers feel strongly that the government is not doing enough to support them. But it is essential that we always debate policy solutions in calm and measured ways. You gotta like just look at this idea of wanting the government to basically support them. But the thing is that if you just look at our first segment of what we just did, they don't even support free speech here in America. They say they do, and I'm sure there's some that do, but their actions from the progressive left going back years. I mean, we actually talked about it in our book here. We talked about it with Milo Yiannopoulos like years ago. Heck, was that 2014, 2016, somewhere in that timeline? At UC Berkeley, we're talking about Ben Shapiro having to be escorted out of rooms as well, out of speeches. I mean, this whole idea has been going on for an extremely long time. They don't care about free speech. They don't care anything about your speech. They will say they do. They will say they care about your speech and your rights and all those other things. But we're constantly seeing the exact opposite. They're gaslighting us constantly. Oh, we care. Oh, we'll be understanding. Oh, we still want you to have your right to free speech. And you see the clips of them, shouting, bringing in the bullhorns, maliciously attacking you, just like we saw from Riley Gaines, the swimmer from the first segment. We see them attacking Michael Knowles, throwing stuff at him, literally putting death threats at Matt Walsh's family to where he can't even go to the speeches. He has to stay at home and protect his family, which is the right move to do. I mean, it's time and time and time again, you see from the progressive leftists and the Democrat Party wanting to sit there and utilize violence. You want the biggest case here to utilize violence? Look at what they did after the George Floyd stuff. Burning down cities. Nothing happened, by the way. I mean, you had billions of dollars of just property damage, and nothing happened from it. But you know what they'll always point towards is the January 6th event, which literally people were chauffeured around on a VIP tour from Capitol Police. Everybody's walking around, just chatting on their phones, taking selfies. The people that work there, the police officers themselves, the Capitol Police officers were literally taking selfies and just talking to people. Literally, their hands were in their pockets. They were shooting the bleep, basically having a stogie in the Capitol. Not really, but they were just having conversations, folks. You understand, I'm painting a picture here of how nonchalant it was. It wasn't a good thing of them breaking walls. Some of them were actually hurting Capitol Police officers. I'm not saying that stuff is good, but the holistic view of it, the picture that they painted was insane. And the picture that they painted, the actual riots that were taking place under George Floyd, was, these are mostly peaceful. As there's a building on fire, like 3 of them. Not just on fire, like ablaze. Like the thing was almost burnt down, happening behind the guy. And he's like, it's mostly peaceful. Really, not much going on. People are looting the stores. They're freaking climbing out of windows. I mean, it is insane, the gaslighting and narratives that are being pushed here. And like I said, folks, it's happening in the UK. It will happen here. You're going to see it happen here. I'm telling you, the schools are already trying their darnest to get it in so they can sit there and trans your kid. Boy, oh boy, are they trying. Moving into our last story of the day, some feel-good stuff for Mr. 45 here, Donald Trump. Fans go wild for him, folks, at the UFC event that happened this weekend. Fighter leads Let's Go Brandon chant, and as you could imagine, we got the video for you, folks. Days after pleading not guilty to criminal charges, former President Donald Trump received a warm welcome. Warm doesn't even do justice to the type of welcome this man received. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, by the way, folks. Support a true American patriot. We need more conservatives and patriots to get our voice out there for you. Because look what they're doing, not just the Trump here, but the rest of us conservatives. We all know that YouTube isn't for us. We all know YouTube's shadow banning us. Support us by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment down below. Your help support would be greatly appreciated. Well, he received a warm welcome after he showed up to Saturday's event at the evening of UFC 287 in Miami. Videos posted to social media show Trump walking through the stadium packed with cheering attendees. Trump himself is a fan of the UFC, and he's been a fan of the UFC for an extremely long time. I mean, Dana White absolutely adores President Trump because Trump gave him an opportunity when nobody else would, and Dana White sits there and loves this great man. So beside the octagon, and we'll show the video in a moment, Trump sat next to Kid Rock, former world heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson. What's up, man? I'll eat your children. Mike Tyson, come here. Come here, Donald Trump, what you need? UFC president Dana White. Gotta have a little bit of fun, folks. At one point, Trump stood up and waved. The crowd broke into chants USA. Let's go ahead and see it, folks. We got to open it up here one moment. We're running a little bit slow today, folks. It is a Monday morning, but nonetheless, we still got the footage. You don't get that with Joe Biden, folks. It gives you goosebumps. My whole body has goosebumps right now. I'm not exaggerating that one bit. You don't get this with Joe Biden. When was the last time you saw Joe Biden fill up a parking lot, a stadium? But we're told, you guys, he's the most popular president in American history. We got like 82 million votes somehow. I don't think so. I don't want to get banned off YouTube, but I think we all understand what really took on regarding that election. I'm not saying there's full-fledged fraud, but there definitely was fraud that happened. And we've talked about that at length here on the Bald Brad Show. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again in the upcoming elections. We'll have to be careful. UFC star who lost his fight and announced his retirement gave a shout out to Trump. Quote, "I want to say greatest president in history of the world sitting right there." He's promoting a round of cheers. I love that guy. As you can imagine, folks, we got another clip here to show you. It's kind of sad seeing this guy retire. He gave like 20 years to the UFC, but here's a speech talking about Trump. Yeah, I always say this. It is amazing to me, and we just said this, that Joe Biden somehow is the most popular president ever. Nobody likes Joe. Nobody likes Joe Biden. Trump is the most popular president ever. They literally get stadiums chanting for his name. I mean, not just like UFC. We've seen football stadiums chanting USA. They love Trump. They don't do this stuff with Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't even go out there and talk to anybody. Florida Republican Ron DeSantis, who is widely expected to compete against the presidency of Trump 2024 against him, also received praise from the fighter, as you just saw. We also got the greatest governor of all time, which he's not wrong there. There is a pic of President Trump and Mike Tyson here that I got to show you. I'll tell you what, Mike, you love the prime. You love the good stuff. I tell you what, George. I tell you what. This is the greatest fighter that's ever lived. He's great. Give me some of that prime. I'll eat your children. It's just. Can you imagine the trio there with Kid Rock, Mike Tyson, and Donald Trump? Like, the amount of comedic material that probably came out of those conversations and quotes, that's to just be astonishing. Trump, a longtime businessman, announced in November he would be running again another presidency, another campaign. We got more picks for you here. This is with Dana White, Kid Rock, and Mike Tyson. I mean, that's a phenomenal clip right there. I mean, look, Trump lost weight, you guys. I don't know if you noticed that. The man's looking pretty good. Looking way better than Joe, that's for sure. And speaking way better than Joe. But somehow Joe's all there. Joe's cognitively with us, folks, which we all know he's not. We're going to see here. We got about another year, really, until we're going to start seeing a lot of momentum if Trump's going to get this thing or not. I mean, 2024 and it's done, folks. So we got a lot of stuff happening with Trump, with the woke mob, with the Bald Brad Show. Folks, if you notice, we're going to be releasing these 3 to 4 minute videos that are just voiceovers of the news. I'm trying to reach bigger audiences and want to provide you with more and different types of content. So it's really just for you and to make the channel honestly just grow bigger. So bear with me as we're working on that and basically trying to learn how to do it. This is all new to me, but I just always appreciate your support and your kindness that you give to me here in the Bald Brad Show. I love hanging out with you guys in live chat. You guys know that, which is why I basically drag these out for like 30, 40 minutes at a time. We're going a little bit short today, but thank you so much, guys. Hit that join tab. Join us here. Become a Patriot. Some of you donate $5 a month. Just hit that join tab. It's $5 a month anyways. You might as well join that way. You get the badges. You get the emotes. You get to chat in the box with all of us. And grab yourself a mug from baldbrad.com. If you haven't already picked up your copy of Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America, get yourself a copy. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. I found out. I don't know how I didn't know about this. I guess we're in Walmart. Okay, so you can buy it from Walmart too. We're trying to get it anywhere and everywhere. We're trying to get it in Target right now. You guys are buying these things up like they're hotcakes. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If you are, head over to Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever you bought it from, and leave us a nice 5-star review. It increases our ratings, our rankings rather, and just makes it more popular. So thank you so much for your support and your help. Leave us a comment down below, hit that like and subscribe button. Folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on the Bob Brett Show.